Hello, this is Bilal, your economic instructor. Today we'll be discussing for the chapter costs in A2, and the topics that will be considered are all the product graphs, which include average product, marginal product, total product, and all the cost graphs, which include marginal cost, total cost, variable cost, fixed cost, and all the average, variable, fixed, and total costs, right? So let's get started. And there are 10 MCQs, but there might be a lot of solving, so let's get started. The table shows the firm's total fixed cost and total variable cost. What can be concluded from the table? All right, we can see the fixed cost is the same and the total variable cost is increasing, and it's increasing by the same proportion. So for one output it's 1000, for the second output it's 2000, so it's increasing by 1000. What can be concluded from the table? All right, so A seems to be correct because we know average fixed cost graph would look something like this. It would continuously fall, and average fixed cost is constant. Well, this cannot be the answer. Average variable cost falls. No, average variable cost remains the same, and average variable cost will be rising, right? So A is the right answer. We don't even need to calculate. We can just, see the data and figure this out, right? So let's get started on the next MCQ. A firm at its current level of production finds that its short-run marginal cost is less than the short-run average variable cost. In order to solve this MCQ, we need to make the graph first. Right, let's make it. This is my marginal cost, and this is my average variable costs. All right, so we are at a point where our marginal cost is less than the average variable cost. So we can say we are at point X. Marginal cost is less, average variable cost is high. What conclusion about the firm can be drawn from this information? Average variable cost is constant. All right, we know that the average variable cost is not constant. It first decreases and then increases, but in the case above, the last MCQ that we discussed was an anomaly, abnormal, because the data was given, right? So average variable cost is falling. Oh yes, it's falling. We can see it from the graph. It is falling as we move on. All right, average variable cost is higher than the average total cost. Well, this can never be the answer because average total cost will always be higher. Average variable cost is rising. No, this is incorrect as well. So B is the right answer. I hope you got this right. A very easy MCQ. We just needed to make the graph and it was completely easy for us. What students do, they don't make graphs when solving MCQs. It makes it harder for them to come to the answers. All right, let's move on. All right, let's go. In the diagram, total cost of the firm, short run total cost curve. All right, TC is the total cost curve. Okay, which statement is correct? All right, so there are 3 points. Right, now what I need to do is I need to take out a scale and make a ray. Right, so we can see. All right, so if we can see at this point, if we can see at this point, my scale, my ruler is tangent to the total cost curve. At this point, the average total cost will be lowest. That's the rule, right? So that is one information. At this point, my average total cost will be lowest. I'm writing it over here. And at this point, the slope of the total cost is changing. First, it is increasing at a slower rate and then it starts to increase at a faster rate. So at Q2, my marginal cost is lowest. All right, let's look at the options. Average total cost is minimized at Q3. Well, this is the right answer. Average variable cost, we cannot conclude about average variable cost because the graph is for total cost. So this cannot be the answer. C cannot be the answer because both talk about average variable cost. Marginal cost is minimized at Q1, which is incorrect as well because it is minimized at Q2. Now, the reason I talked about marginal cost and average total cost is you don't know what MCQs might be asking you. Next time the MCQ might be asking which point has the lowest marginal cost point according to the total cost curve. So we need to be sure we are prepared from all aspects. So A is the right answer. What are the correct formula for calculating average cost and average revenue? All right. So average cost is calculated by total cost divided by number of units, and average revenue is calculated by the formula total revenue divided by number of units. Let's look at the option. Okay, A seems to be incorrect because we need units, so we don't need to look at average revenue. All right, B is incorrect as well because we have price. C seems to be correct because total cost divided by units or quantity, and D is also correct. Total cost divided by quantity. Let's look at average revenue. Okay, C is right because total revenue divided by the quantity, and D is incorrect because total revenue divided by price. So easy. Just knowing the formulas can give you 8 to 10 marks in your A2 MCQ. So it's that simple, right? Let's move on. The diagram shows the long run total cost curve of a firm. At which point is the long run average total cost at its minimum, all right? We are ignoring this to be long run. We'll use the concept of short run, all right? So in the last graph, we discussed the point where a ray is tangent is the point where your average total cost is lowest. So let me just make a point which is tangent. All right, so here we go. All right, so I'm making a point. All right, I made a point and you can see it is tangent at this point. So at this point, average total cost is lowest. All right, so this is how you solve for these MCQs. Whenever the graph is for variable cost, I'll write this down: variable cost, total cost, and total product. Right, you need to make a ray a straight line, and at whichever point the ray is tangent means that at that point their averages would be lowest. So if you're drawing for average variable cost, we'll use the variable cost graph. If you're using the total cost graph, we'll get the average total cost point, and if you're using the total product graph, we'll get the average total product graph at its highest. All right, so at point OY, as simple as that. Let's move on. The table shows the production and total cost of a firm. What is the average variable cost of producing 5 tons of output? All right, so at 0 we have 20. We know that this is my fixed cost, right? And at 5 we have 50, which is my total cost. Deducting the fixed cost, I will get what? 30, and 30 is my variable cost. I just need to divide this by the number of units, which is 5 tons, and voila, I would get 6, and the answer would be C. Right, just making sure. Perfect. Moving on. What is marginal cost? Well, the basic definition of marginal cost is the cost of one additional unit. Let's look at the option. The difference between total cost of producing n units and n minus 1 units. Well, this is the answer because let's say if the total cost of produce n is 10, let's say the total cost of producing the 10 units is 100 and n minus 1 means 9. So the difference between their cost gives me the cost of one additional unit. So this is a fancy way of describing marginal cost. Right? So don't get confused, use your common sense. Right? The total cost of, let me give you a bit more example so it's clear. Let's say the total cost and the number of units. All right, for the 9th unit the total cost is 100, and for 10 units the total cost is 120. So what it's saying, total cost of producing n and n minus the difference. So the difference is 20, which means that the cost of the one extra unit is 20. So as simple as that. The table shows the cost at different level of output for firms producing chairs. All right. What is the average variable cost when output is 4 chairs? Okay, so we know that this is my fixed cost because at 0 units we are having a cost of 50, and average variable cost for 4 units. All right, let's get to 4 units. Total cost is 94, subtracting 50 gives me 44. Dividing by 4 units will give me 11. So the correct answer is A. Alright, let's get started on the next MCQ. Let's move on to the 9th MCQ. The schedule shows the short-run marginal cost of producing X. So the marginal costs are mentioned over here: 45, 40, 30, 20, 20. Given that the fixed cost is 50, which level of output minimizes the average total cost? So we need to do a bit of working over here. Basically, we would replace marginal cost as per unit variable cost. So the variable cost for the first unit is 45 and the variable for the second is 40. That is what marginal cost basically means. So we need to calculate the total variable cost first. So for the units 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, all right. Let's say the first unit total variable cost is 45. For the second unit we just need to add both of them, 45 and 40. This gives me 85. For the third we need to add all three of them, so 85 plus 30 would give me 115 if I'm not wrong. 115 plus 20 would give me 135, and 135 plus 20 would give me 155. Now we just need to add the fixed cost, which is 50, no matter how many units we are producing, and then we can calculate the total cost, which is the sum of variable cost and fixed cost. And this gives me 35, this gives me 165, this gives me 185, and this gives me 205. And now I just need to divide them by average, for the average total cost I just need to divide them by the number of units. Right, so I'll divide 90 by 1, 135 by 2, 165 by 3, 185 by 4, 205 by 5. I'll just use the calculator. Okay. Oops. All right. So using the calculator, this gives me 90. 135 divided by 2 gives me 67.5. 165 divided by 3 gives me 55. 185 divided by 4 gives me 46 point something, and 205 divided by 5 would give me 41. So the average total cost is lowest on the fifth unit, hence the answer is D. Moving on to the last MCQ, which diagram correctly shows the relationship between average product and the marginal product? Now, we know that the shape of average and marginal is upward sloping and then downward sloping. This is average product, and a similar shape is for marginal product. Hence, A and D can never be the answer. B and C are the right answers. Now, what distinguishes average and marginal product? Now, the marginal product would always increase by a faster rate and fall by a faster rate. So this is the correct answer. It's increasing faster than the average product, and when it comes falling down, it falls faster than the average product. So B is the right answer and C is incorrectly labeled. I hope you had something to learn out of these videos, and I hope you're doing good in your studies. Until next time, best of luck. See you soon. Goodbye.